Good morning, members. We'll continue with our scrutiny of the 6 items submitted by the government. Well, 2 have been carried forward from the last meeting. I would like to remind members that if you have a direct or indirect pecuniary interest in respect of our items, then please refer to Rule 83A of our Rules of Procedure and declare the nature of your interest before you speak. And also like to refer member to Rule 84 of our Rules of Procedure in respect of what you should do before you cast your vote if you have a direct pecuniary interest. Item number 1, PWSC 2014-15-49, Tuen Mun Sewerage, Stage 1. 160 DS, Tuen Mun Sewerage, Stage 1. 346 DS, Upgrading of Tuen Mun Sewerage, Phase 1. Members are invited to upgrade part of 160 DS and part of 346 DS to Category A, and an estimated cost of $722.5 million in money of the day prices. We started to discuss this item on the 10th of February, and we have also got supplementary information from the government. Please refer to PWSC 120 1415-01, which was distributed to members on the 26th of February. I propose we continue with the discussion. Would there be a need for the government to introduce a paper? Maybe not. Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I've been reminded by the clerk that the last member who asked questions in the last meeting was Dr. Fernando Zhang, and he asked which villages in Hong Kong had not been covered by the sewerage trunk sewer, and what is the plan for covering these villages in the sewerage network. May I now invite the government to respond. Director, would you like to respond to the outstanding questions? I would like to defer to my colleague from the EPD. Is it Ms. Yuen? We have 900 or so villages. We have provided sewerage facilities for 170 villages. 300 odd are still covered by the plan. So 170 are being planned for coverage. So for some 300 or 200 have not been covered by any plan. We have more than 10 catchment areas. So gradually we would take forward projects to cover villages. But it will depend on the design and the result of local consultation, as well as the land resumption progress. When a project is ready to commence, we would apply for funding approval. Dr. Fernando Zhang. Thank you, Chairman. 900 odd villages. Some have a history of over 100 years. Although we have returned to China for 17, 18 years, we do not expect that within a short period of time everything can be completed. But from the progress so far, whether we're talking about the colonial era or the SAR era, don't you think that the progress is a bit too slow, and you have 300 odd with initial planning and 200 with no planning so far, are you going to have a timetable for the entire program? Ms. Yuen. There are 300 or so which are being proceeded with plans. So this is rather clear, and we have to do local consultation. And if land resumption is required, it's more time consuming. So for the projects that have come to this subcommittee, we might have already spent a lot of time on local consultation. We don't have a comprehensive timetable as such. We adopt a pragmatic approach, and we will look at the resources available. If the preparation is ready, then we will submit the projects for approval here. For the 200 or so which have not been covered by any planning, most of them are sparsely populated and in remote areas. They're using septic tank. Because of the low population, this is still acceptable. But of course, things will change over time. We'll look at the situation on the ground and conduct review to see whether we need to carry out new projects. I hope they can come up with a better blueprint, Mr. Chairman, because the sewage from these villages is causing pollution. If they still think that this is a practical or pragmatic approach, we are failing our future generations. Some villages may be using septic tanks, which may mean that they are not causing serious pollution problems, so we still have some time. But it's pollution to our rivers and our water, marine bays, and so on and so forth. So the government should press on with the construction of sewage facilities. Mr. Minnie Lau, I would like to follow up on what Dr. Fernando Zhang has said. So we have the director or assistant director. This is going to take time, and it's complicated. That's what government is about. You have to do things that are complicated and time-consuming. You need to set priorities, and you need to take forward projects, because we're talking about sanitation and environmental protection. And we are an advanced metropolis. And also we still have aqua prairies. Well, when we go to rural areas, sometimes we have to use the aqua prairie there, and there's always a long queue outside. We are among the 20 or so wealthiest city in the world. Why don't we invest more? Yes, it's complicated. People have all kinds of demands, but now we are talking about a few hundred villages to be covered, and such matters are not controversial in this council, and you're reluctant to do things that are not controversial here, and yet so keen on doing things controversial. So is there a policy on not doing more? Maybe we can have the permanent secretary for this question. Ms. Wong, Ms. Anissa Wong. Thank you, Ms. Lau, for your questions. I think we are all concerned about managing our water quality problem. We have spent $45.1 billion on related works. On the sewerage treatment of sewage of villages, we would take into account a number of factors, including population and technical matters, and we have a priority, and we would roll out projects gradually. It doesn't mean that we do not attach importance to this. We believe that resources devoted to this area are well worth them. For the laying out of sewage in villages is a lot of work. It's major work. We need to explain to villagers, and there are also technical problems to overcome. But we attach importance to this, and well, we have been reporting such matters to the ACE.
Chairman, I hope the government can go back and think about it. I'm sure we do not have resources earmarked for this in this year's budget, but you must have a goal, and then you will be willing to put in more resources. So later on, I'm sure you'll come back to our special FC, but you do not have a long-term plan for this, right? As for sewerage, we have a plan. We have a district sewerage planning system, so we do have that. However, for infrastructural projects, we have to look into the population in that area. As for village sewerage, we have a plan for that, and we have to accord a priority according to population distribution. And later on, maybe we can brief members again on our village sewerage arrangements. Well, she talks about population. Now, this has exposed why they are not doing anything, because in some villages there are only a handful of villagers still living there. But we are talking about environmental hygiene and pollution, so please don't only focus on population. Permanent Secretary, well, population is one of the factors that we would consider, and of course we will look at the environment as well as the techniques involved. Well, other than public sewerage, well, for every small house when it's built, we would require a septic tank to be built. So we have already taken environmental protection into account, and we are looking at the matter from a comprehensive perspective. Next, Mr. Oberchan. With regard to village sewerage, we have talked about this for over 20 years. As far as I remember, at different eras, the speed of development was different. Sometimes they would come to seek funding for a lot of projects, and sometimes they're very slow. I remember from the 20s to the early 2000s, they were progressing really fast, and in the recent years, they have slowed down. I don't know why. I would like to ask the government for some figures. Now, in the past 20 years, what have you done in each year, and how come in some years you did more, in some years you did less? You said that you have to consult villages. I have contacted villages myself. The majority of them support the construction of sewerage. I have visited many villages, and nobody objects to this in principle. Sometimes they just query the connection points of the sewers, etc. Sometimes they ask you, how come the village representative's house is 5 meters away from the connection points, and for some other villages it's not that far. So it is about the power in villages. Last meeting, I also asked you about this. I think you should have more connection points. We are talking about $700 million now, and last time I thought we got a breakdown of about $300,000 per household. How about extending it by a few meters? It may only be 1% of your total cost, but when I look at the figures the government give us in the annex or in the enclosure, well, last time I asked the government to give us the detailed figures. I don't want just a basket of numbers, and I object to this because we do not see the details. For different villages, they have different problems. So before this is submitted to the FC, I hope that comprehensive figures can be given to us. Now, in the past 20 years, which villages have been installed with sewerage, and how many have been completed, and what's the percentage of villages with modern sewerage, etc. Now you're talking about village sewerage. However, in these villages, there are still some low-density areas, and they may account for a big part of the village. Some of them may be licensed huts. So I think you should give us the figures concerning different categories. For the licensed huts, they are not village small houses, but they are also covered in these areas. So I'd like to ask the government again. Now, before you go to the FC, can you promise us that there will be further connections? Even though you just built for 90% of the households, you will just be spending a small amount of money, but you are unwilling to do that. And as a result, you are wasting millions of dollars. For remote areas, you will not build new sewerage for them, and that would cause water pollution. They are using old methods, and the sewage will be discharged into rivers and streams. And in remote areas, this is more serious. This will have a huge impact on ecology. So you are just forking out a small amount of money, and then you will reap a significant result. Well, for connecting to households, I think a number of members have asked this question. So, Permanent Secretary, can you tell us exactly what the government's policy is? As for connecting public sewers to what places, this issue has been discussed many times. Now, when we connect village sewers, we will try our best to move them to as close as possible to private properties. But this would involve private property ownership, the related facilities, and a number of issues. So for village sewers connection, we would connect the sewers to the boundary of the private properties, and for the rest, the owner of the property will take care of. We have talked to villagers, Hang Yikok, and many relevant organizations. They find this arrangement reasonable. Now, you have talked to Hang Yikok and villagers. Which village representative told you that this is reasonable? That is, you do not connect the sewers to their household. I have talked to villagers myself. Many of them would like sewers to be connected directly to their homes, and you are now giving us misleading information. All along, it doesn't mean that the villagers would accept that. Have you visited the villages? I have visited villages with you. Don't distort their views. If you continue to do it, it doesn't mean it's reasonable. The existence of CY Leung doesn't mean the present system is reasonable. Well, let us listen to the government's answer first. Well, this is a time-honored system. Actually, the sewerage connection rates in villages is high. And as to whether the villagers find this reasonable, I think the member can make his own judgment. And Mr. Chen says that in some remote villages with small population, Well, these houses would have the basic septic tank facilities. Well, the people living in these villages are of a very small number. So when we accord priority to sewerage connections, of course, these villages would not rank high. But we will follow up on this. Thank you, Chairman. Next, Dr. Fernando Zhang. My question is simple. I want the government to give us information about the past. Let's not look at the colonial era. After the handover, we still had 900 odd villages. In the past 17 or 18 years, which village was connected with sewerage, and which villages are still not connected? Are some of them still in the initial planning stage, and some of them are not even in your plan? So can you give us a table showing the situations of these 900 odd villages? I think Dr. Chang is asking about the Director of EP's letter on 25th February, and on top of that, he wants a list of the situations of the 900 villages. Thank you, Chairman. Now, some of the works are underway, and for some other villages, we still have plans. And with regard to this, we will provide you with more information. Well, there are some 200 villages which are still not in the plan. Can you also give us information concerning these villages? Because this will make the whole scenario more transparent. Now, some villages may not have a lot of people. However, their sewage may affect the environment. So please let us know more information. Dr. Zhang wants a list of the 200 odd unsewered villages. He just wants the names of the villages. We have a comprehensive plan, so we will go back and take a look at the situation, and then we can give you the names of the unsewered villages. Mr. Abachan? Chairman, with regard to sewage treatment in villages, I remember many years ago some professionals have given their views to the government. Now the government is really bureaucratic because it uses a central sewage treatment system. It has to find a place for the construction of a sewage treatment plant, and then sewers would have to be built to connect villages to such plants. So this is really complicated and expensive. Why is it so expensive? It is because of the connection system, and the central sewage treatment plant is also very expensive. The experts asked the government to try to do this. That is whether district sewage treatment system can be built. For example, 30 or 40 households in a village would treat their sewage together, and then the government will take up the rest of the job. That would be much cheaper and faster, and you do not have to build so many things. However, in the past years, the government hasn't done anything. The experts have given the government their views, but the government has refused to take up such views. But this is more cost effective and is faster, and you can do it at all the villages in Hong Kong. Well, in the past, we have seen district developments, and in these areas, there were no sewerage. So the government asked the relevant developers to build local sewerage. So it is possible. Now we have to wait for the construction of a central sewage treatment center first before sewers can be connected to such villages. It's impossible. We have to wait for many years. So I now just ask you to carry out a study. That is whether local small-scale sewage treatment facilities can be built. Maybe you can have a pilot scheme. Otherwise, we will have to wait forever, and the environment will continue to be polluted. P.S. I would like to thank Mr. Chen for his comments. As I said just now, for the village sewerage, or for larger villages, we have already done our work in the past. As for the remaining villages, they are pretty small. So as to how we should move forward, we will definitely look into different ways. Now, can you be more specific? Maybe you can give us an initial proposal in 6 months' time. Well, after the government carries out a study, then the PS and the Deputy Secretary would change posts, and then we'll hear nothing again from those studies. Now, don't tell me that the EPD people don't know anything about this.
Please focus on Mr. Chan's question. We are not asking that the remote villages be connected to the master sewerage system. You should have some satellite sewerage collection system. Maybe you can use some vehicle to collect the sewage for the treatment in a central facility or central system. Please respond to that question. When our system is not already covering such villages, then there are local facilities. So this is an existing arrangement. For remote villages, the question is whether we should set up a local sewerage system, or whether we should carry out localized sewerage system as a matter of public works. We need to work out carefully the financial implications and the engineering aspects. I don't have a timetable to tell members, but we are conducting the relevant studies. We will report to the advisory committee on the environment when we have got some preliminary findings. But here we are talking about the master sewerage plan. Ms. Aminilao, well, we support this item. It's just that we want you to do more. I agree that more information should be provided to members. Please tell us the progress. Or is it that there's not going to be any progress? Give us the list. And also, what about Aqua Privy? Is it a related matter here? Well, it's considered a nuisance by many. Permanent Secretary? Aqua Privy? Well, we're talking, I think the member is referring to the public toilets where water supply is not already there. We're talking about the sewerage system. My logic is that those places with Aqua Privy are not covered by the sewerage system. Well, we want to make sure that all public toilets are properly provided with facilities. Please give us a list. If the Aqua Privy is a related facility, please tell us the progress. Well, we have been following up such matters for more than 10 years, and on a Saturday Like this, we still have to talk about or ask for progress. Okay, Permanent Secretary, please tell us the progress. If members have no other questions, I'll now put this item to the vote. With those members in favor, please raise their hands. Those against? I think the majority of members are in favor of this item. This item is approved. Please provide the information to us before the item goes to the FC. All right. So this is a request from Mr. Albert Chan. We'll ask the clerk to remind the government to do this before the FC meeting. Next item, PWSC 2014-15-50, item 2 on the agenda. 769 CL, pilot study on underground space development in selected strategic urban areas. Members are invited to upgrade 769 CL to Category A and an estimated cost of $17 million in money of the day prices for carrying out pilot study on underground space development in selected strategic urban areas in Hong Kong. On the 27th of May 2014, the development panel was consulted, and also the supplementary information has been provided on the request of panel members, which is now annexed as enclosure 3 to the paper. Should we have an introduction here, Mr. Horn? Well, actually, we are talking about pilot study on 4 selected strategic urban areas: Tsim Sha Tsui West, MOT Wan Chai, Happy Valley, and MOT and Causeway Bay. Hong Kong is a densely developed area, especially in the urban area. We believe that we should better use of space in urban areas. We can provide more space, and we can enhance connectivity, which cannot be done through above ground facilities. And we can also use the new space to relocate facilities that are incompatible with the urban setting. The released surface land can be used for other purposes. The study is going to be strategic in nature. We would like to have an underground master plan for the 4 strategic areas, which we would also like to identify the priority projects. There will be engineering feasibility studies and financial feasibility studies. We have consulted the relevant district councils, and as the chairman has said, on the 27th of May last year, we consulted the development panel, and we secured the support of the panel in submitting this item to this subcommittee. And we have also provided additional information, supplementary information, in the form of enclosure 3 to this paper. I urge members to support the proposal. All right, members, if you wish to ask questions or offer comments, please press the button to speak. Mr. Tony Jie. Making the best use of space and land and even underground space is just something we should do. So I support the pilot study. I need to clarify a couple of points here. Paragraph 3 sets out the scope of the study. Under A5, financial assessment on cost effectiveness and recommendation of further studies for implementing each priority project as needed. And in paragraph 10, the $70 million is broken down into a number of items. And there's a breakdown for the work to be done under paragraph 3. But I don't see anything about financial assessment. Financial assessment is important. Can we be given some information on this? And in enclosure 3, paragraph 4 of enclosure 3, it talks about social economic issues. So the scope of the study is going to be wide. Financial assessment is important. So are social economic issues. We have to study one territory-wide study, and then this one on 4 strategic areas. I'm also referring to paragraph 4 of enclosure 3. 15 potential areas will be selected for prioritization. If these 4 are not covered by the list of 15, will they still be selected for consideration, Mr. Horn? Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your support. As the member has pointed out, financial assessment is an important element in the 4 strategic areas if we can select suitable projects. We are going to carry out some preliminary financial assessment. And that is to say, if a space is created underground, and if we can relocate above ground facilities, and then we can release some surface land. And we have to look at the costs and the technical issues of doing this. Such matters will be covered by the financial assessment. And the expenditure will be covered by 10A, consultants' fees, as in particular under Roman II, engineering study and technical assessments. Turning to the territory-wide study. It started in December 2013, as we have told the panel. This is a territory-wide study. We'll look at both local and overseas experience on how we should go about it. If I may, can I wrap it up? Thank you. We'll look at underground space, both in urban areas and rural areas, and to select potential sites. We'll ask the consultant to give us a short list of 40, and we're going to select 15 areas. And the 15 areas will not duplicate, will not overlap with the 4 we're talking about here. In the territory-wide study, there will be 15 potential areas, and the 15 will not cover what we're talking about, the 4 selected sites: Tsim Sha Tsui West, Causeway Bay, Happy Valley, and Moti Wan Chai. No, that will not be. Those 4 will not be covered. So that financial assessment will be covered by the consultant's work in paragraph 10. I think financial assessment should be independent. If we have a breakdown under consultant's fees, it would make it more independent. Mr. Horn, do you want to provide a brief response or understand the comment? Well, actually, different elements under an engineering study are always interlinked. But we will certainly monitor the financial assessment to make sure that it is authentic. Dr. Fernando Zhang, this is a study on underground space. I think the idea is to provide financial facilities, financial space, a commercial space. The 4 areas are strategic areas where we have above ground open space, such as Victoria Park and Happy Valley. The open space is supposed to provide some breathing space for Hong Kong, but now because of a lack of space, you want to look underground. Do we have a shortage of shopping malls?
Oh, of course, we are an economic city. We need more space for more activities. Now, the individual visitor scheme has already made our shopping malls extremely crowded. So do you want to fully develop all corners of Hong Kong so that restaurants, hotels, shopping malls can be built? Are we always talking about commercial activities? In this paper, we can see that you have consulted district councils and they have different voices. Now, we do not only lack space for commercial activities, we also need space for other types of activities. So it seems that mainly you want to build underground shopping malls and restaurants. And these facilities will be right under our big parks. So how will they affect our parks? And second, at this stage, do you plan to develop other things? How about arts and culture? How about leisure areas? Do you have such plans? I would like to clarify one point first. Now, for underground space, if it can be created, definitely we will have more space. As I said just now, we have identified as 4 areas, and they are in urban areas. The development above ground is very congested, so it's difficult to find more space. We have always been looking at underground space, but we didn't have a very systematic plan. So now we want to look at the issue more systematically. We are not pre-planning as to what should be put in this underground space. This is point number 1. And as I said just now, other than looking for space above ground, now we have a lot of pedestrian flow and vehicle flow. So if we have more underground space, then the congested situation can be alleviated. In November last year, we visited Paris. I went to La Défense and another venue which was called Paris Hall. At La Défense, they put the vehicles underground, and above it there is a huge open space. And for Paris Hall, they have 5 stories underground. The lowest story is for railway. As for the 3 stories above, there are underground shopping streets. And the pedestrian and passenger flow there is 750,000. And for the shopping streets, 150,000. Now they are still expanding it. So with this project, pedestrians and passengers are led to underground space. So for underground space development, it's not only about commercial activities. Well, some of the developments cannot be carried out, or some of the facilities should not be put above ground. For example, refuse collection points, and they can be put underground. So we do not have a presumption as to what should be put underground at this moment. And when we carry out this study, we will look into more details. Next, Mr. Ray Chan, and then Mr. Ip Kwok Him. Chairman, for these 4 strategic urban areas, the government has shown us a map, but it's very simple. We just see 4 areas surrounded by red lines. Can the government explain to us more clearly where are these boundaries? Well, where is it up to the east and up to the west? For Admiralty and Wan Chai, there is a T-shaped area. It seems that it's not connected to Causeway Bay. But when we look at other underground space, for example, in Taipei, the different underground sites are connected to each other. So for MOT Wan Chai and Causeway Bay, will the underground space be connected, and where are the boundaries? You are saying that you have no presumption now, but in your enclosure, you are saying that this will be for commercial and other purposes. But what I think is that this will mainly be for commercial purposes. I will answer the second question first, and Ms. Chung will answer the first question. As I said just now, and I would like to reiterate, we do not have a presumption, and of course, commercial activities can be developed underground. But we can find solution space underground. It can be commercial, it can be other things. And also it can be a very good connection, and also for some other facilities which not suitable to be put above ground, we can put it underground. Well, maybe some government facilities can be put underground, community centers, post office. And then for above ground space, because it's more expensive, then it can be used for commercial purpose. Just now I said that there will be a financial arrangement study. We want the project to be viable, so we have to do some calculations. So the detailed financial study will be looking at this. As for the boundaries, Ms. Zhang will be talking about that. A connection is very important. We want these different sites to be connected. Assistant Director for Planning, when we picked these 4 strategic urban areas, they are traditional commercial areas in Hong Kong. They are already very well developed commercial and tourism areas. And they are major transport hubs, parks and leisure facilities. So they are appropriate sites for developing underground space. When you look at enclosure 1, for these 3 strategic urban areas on Hong Kong Island, they are next to each other. The red lines on the map are shows the areas where we are going to study. As to how these sites can be effectively connected, this is one of the major points that we are going to look at in the study. The study will review more details. So those lines do not mean anything. So how about the straight line linking up Wan Chai and Causeway Bay? What's the name of the street? Do you have that in mind now? Thank you, Chairman. After the meeting, we can provide you with a more detailed map so that you can see the names of the streets. The red line is drawn on an existing road, right, Assistant Director? Now, some of them are on existing roads, and some of them are not. For example, Happy Valley, the red line is around the race course. But you are drawing this T shape, and you should have the exact area in mind. The Assistant Director will provide you further information after the meeting. So this red lines show the study areas of the 4 strategic areas. So for that red line surrounding the race course, which street is it, etc., you will be providing them with more details later, right? Yes. Mr. Ip Kwok Him. In Hong Kong, we definitely do not have enough urban land. So how are we going to develop more space? That is very important. I think developing underground space is one of the directions we should consider. Some members asked just now, how come we are building so many more shopping malls that are built for mainland visitors? But if we do not have commercial activities, Hong Kong will end. What kind of resources do we have so that 7 million people's livelihood can be supported? So we need to have more space, and we need to use our land more efficiently. Now, this is a pilot study. So we will study as to how things can be improved. Maybe we need more shopping malls if there is a demand. And when I look at the areas, are they mainly under parks where the above ground area is not too congested? When I look at the map, it seems to me they are areas like this. And also, you are not considering building a one-level car park underground, or like the MTR, just one level of facility. Maybe you have 4 to 5 levels. If that is so, then it will be of a huge scale. So in your study, will you be looking at the scale as well? What's the purpose of this study? Are you looking at the suitability of these sites, or whether such a development will have an impact on the traffic above ground, or what kind of things can be built underground? What are the directions of the study? Can I know more? Mr. Horn, we have picked these 4 areas, and we have considered a number of points. Now, they are in the urban areas. These are densely populated areas. So it is not possible to improve the vehicle flow and pedestrian flow above ground. So if we have underground space, some above ground space can be released. For example, park and race course. So if we find space underground, it will be very helpful. So no matter what we do, we have to look at the financial implications. So there will be developments underground, and it is possible that shopping malls be built underground. So if shopping malls are developed underground, then such projects will be financially viable, and the above ground connections will be bettered. If this is your position, when you carry out the construction works, would the works affect the environments in the vicinity significantly? Of course, we would not be affecting the titles of the surrounding areas. And also in the course of the projects, would the safety of the buildings in the vicinity be undermined? We will make sure that will not happen. And of course, there will be more detailed study and design. Hong Kong has a number of underground developments already, so you don't have to be too worried. Ms. Emily Lau, Chairman, yes, I understand that the government is going to carry out this pilot study because in Hong Kong we really need more space for all sorts of developments. If you look at cities in our neighborhood, well, you have visited Europe, but we can just look at Japan and Korea. They are already doing this. I agree with what Dr. Zhang said just now. We need space for our people. We need parks and leisure facilities. That's also very important. Now, you have picked these areas, and you say that because above ground there is a park, so things can be developed underground. That's good because you are not taking the park away. But you haven't said that you will be creating more space for the people. If you look at London, they have a lot of parks. I think the planning is very different from that of ours. Now, in a residential area, they would have a huge park and then a small park. The residents living at Tseung Kwan O are complaining. They have moved there for over 10 years and they still have no parks. I don't want to see the underground space all become shops. So if you carry out this study, would you be looking at all these? Director? As I mentioned just now, I visited Europe. As for the Paris Hall site, at present the above ground area is not well developed. And now they are doing expansion and it's very close to residential areas. It's very congested, but not as congested as Hong Kong. They are going to develop a very good open space there. So what I mean is, if we develop underground, then above ground, we can make better use of the space. And also, for some above ground space, there are things that we shouldn't put there. For example, refuse collection points, etc. And those can be put underground. I do not object to this, but you are saying that for some objectionable facilities, you would put them underground. And for the Sha-Tin sewage treatment plants, you want to put it in a cave-in, but you have also heard a lot of voices opposing that.
冇呢句説話㗎，咁你會點樣即係？
So it's not in the paper, but is there some room for maneuver? If this is the case, please say something in the FC paper. You're also going to look at space such as park or other open space. So I can't find any in the paper. So please tell people that it's not just about shopping centers and so on. Actually, the district councils expressed similar views. We are going to look for the potential opportunities to improve people's living environment. It's in paragraph 15. So we are not just interested in providing space for shopping facilities. Well, public space may not be the same as a park. You may have something for people for leisure activities, in the underground space. But I'm talking about above ground parks and so on. These include such space of uses in the FC paper. Tell us that you will consider all these. Ms. Chen Yunhan. Well, there are more than 300 hectares in Kowloon East. It's your constituency, Chairman. Well, there was a process. People did not accept it, and gradually people accepted it. Well, it's like an underground street. It can go all the way to the relics in Long Chun Bridge in Tu Kwa Wan. There's going to be a time tunnel, but I'm not talking about this.
先得。如果唔係嘅話咧，我擔心，我經歷咗20年呢啲。
Well, I'm a bit worried by the experience in the past 20 years. Things can come to a sudden halt.
你停咗落嚟啦。
Things stopped at Nam Kwok Road because of the discovery of relics. I support the idea.
你做呢嘢嘅時候咧，你係認真要聽清楚個區會意見。
But you have to listen carefully to the views of district councils and also views from individual district councillors. You have to analyze views carefully. For example, should this be done in Causeway Bay? Of course, views are always divergent, but views may be divergent, and but it doesn't mean that they are always true or not true. What's your take of the proposal, Director? Are you going to accede to request that you are going to go along but not others? I'm not trying to wrong past mistakes. In the past, there was a proposal to create an underground city. Now it's an underground street. It's good. You should look at how the facilities can tie in with the surrounding area. There must be proper complementary facilities. It's just like what we are seeing in West Kowloon. There must be connectivity. And when connectivity is already there, don't rule out different options. Yes, we need to have buildings, and then we need roads, and then there are adverse impacts, noise and pollution. In other cities, not all roads are above ground. So you should not just look at or consider the underground space. You have to consider the road system, and not all roads should be above ground. If you go to the U.S., for example, Boston, you can see similar ideas. Well, time is very short. It's a complicated project. I support the project, but I ask them to listen carefully to opinion expressed by different parties, and then they should consider connectivity and the roads, and they should consider the pollution aspect that would come with new roads. Please consider comprehensively all these. Director, would you like to respond to Ms. Chen Yunhan? Yes, actually, Ms. Chen has provided us with very good ideas. I just want to make one point. In the process of this carrying out this project, there will be public engagement, focus group discussions, and we're also going to consult the districts. We will work hand in hand with local people and other parties to make it successful. I don't have question, but I have a lot of comments and one criticism. When it comes to the provision of retail space in Hong Kong and also our tourist industry and also facilities to cater for the needs of visitors, well, the SAR government has been doing very little, nothing. In 2003, the total retail sales is $170 billion, and 2012, $440 billion. But what about the increase in retail space from 2003 to 2012? Well, I don't have any figure. 7%, 8.9 million square meters to 9.6 million square meters for the 10-year period, taking into account inflation. If after a 10-year period, the business turnover has sort of doubled. Usually, if you have an increase of 5 to 6% in price levels and compounded that for 10 years, it's just doubled. It should be something like $340 billion. So we are short of 30% of retail space. So in terms of square meters, it's 2.7 million square meters. We don't have land for shopping facilities. Even if you have space, you would like to build residential buildings. Because people cannot live underground, so the shopping facilities should be put underground. When you shop, you don't need the blue sky. You don't need the warm breeze. You're just there to shop. It's important to have air conditioning. So we have a shortage of 2.7 million square meters. This project is not going to give us sufficient, but of course I would get it. I would like to have it first. XRL is supposedly to be commissioned in 2017. SCL 2020, again, allegedly that it would happen in 2020. XRL is at a walking distance of 850 meters from West Kowloon. From Tsim Sha Tsui Station to Tsim Sha Tsui East Station is a walk of 400 meters, and we have travelators. A lot of people are using the subway. So you should give the West Kowloon area priority. They should be wide travelators put underground. If you can do this, we don't have to be worried about the IVS visitors. They won't be seen above ground, and there will be economic benefits. There's no congestion. So this must be the first one to complete, but you have to connect it with XRL. Next, Wan Chai North should be prioritized as number 2. It's related to SCL. When I was at KCLC, we very much wanted to go to Causeway Bay, but we couldn't work it out. The alignment would have to make a around about D2, and then the angle will be less than 90 degrees, so we have to go to Wan Chai North. So if you want to consider Victoria Park, please don't do it before you have the North Island line, otherwise a major mishap can be expected. And also, can you also look at North Island line, talk to the MTRCL, ask them to develop the entire NIL, and the government should not pay them anything. The underground facility will, underground space will be sufficient to generate revenue for the entire project. Mr. Tien has talked about the priorities, but we need to carry out the study first. And of course, not all the projects, identified projects, would commence at the same time, so we certainly consider his suggestion. As for the development mode, it's still premature to talk about it. It can be government-led, or it can be left entirely to the private sector, or there should be some PPP projects. Mr. Frankie Yek, Hong Kong is densely populated, and we are short of the land that can be developed. So any study that can address these problems will have our support. According to the paper, you are just talking about $70 million. You don't have any preconceived ideas. I've looked at the selected areas. I don't agree with other members that there should be no preconceived idea. What can you do with those underground space? Of course, not sewage systems. But you might as well admit that you have some ideas already, because otherwise $70 million will not be sufficient. There are some good ideas from members. If we can develop the underground space, and then for the above ground space made available, can we have some open space or some park to improve the living environment? I believe if you can do that, you can have more support from members.
Director? Yes, I've heard Mr. Yek's opinion. Mr. Sin Chung Kai? Chairman, I think this is a study that is worth a while. Now, if the underground space will be used only for retail, I have reservation. But if we can have more open space so that the people living in the vicinity will not be affected by crowds, then I think that is an acceptable idea. Well, those underground space will be great retail space, and it will attract a lot of people. However, then you will attract more people to the area. People have been talking about building shopping malls at the boundary, so we do not want to attract so many people to the urban areas. I think the purpose of the study is to try to find a solution to improve the present situation or to prevent the present congestion from getting worse. When you develop underground space, well, of course, some of the space will be used for commercial purposes. Otherwise, those will be dead space. But while you are doing that, if you just want to increase the area for retail business, then I think it would have a negative impact on our transport system. When I look at your map, I find it quite strange. You have Happy Valley and Victoria Park here. Just now you've talked about engineering problems, etc. I agree with you. But how about the promenade and in Central? Do you want to think about it? Please take a look at Chim Sa Tsui. And Kowloon Park is included in the study area. And for the XLL and West Kowloon, actually studies have been carried out. For WKCD, they already have their transport facilities. Putting transport facilities underground is good, but it's awfully expensive. You know, now WKCD tries to get huge funding from us. So we would always query why it's so expensive, or why there's a cost overrun, etc. For XLL and WKCD, they have already carried out their study. So what are you studying for? How about East Kowloon? You have totally ignored it. Yes, there are a lot of restrictions there. There are numerous buildings above ground. But how about the promenade or the harbour front? Is it not worth a study? Well, are you not duplicating other people's work? Let me make it clear. These 4 strategic urban areas are just the first step. It doesn't mean that we will not be looking at other areas. In December 2012, we asked the consultant to look at all the areas in Hong Kong and whether potentials can be found somewhere. So for East Kowloon and the other areas, we will be looking at them later. Mr. Sin asked a direct question. It seems that WKCD has already planned to put the traffic underground. So what are we doing here? Well, exactly because of that, there is an underground space. And also at Kowloon Park, above ground, there is huge open space. So if we can connect WKCD to XLL to Tsim Sha Tsui, that will be great, because now above ground in Tsim Sha Tsui is pretty crowded. So that's why we want to develop more underground space. You will be studying several areas on the Hong Kong Island. I hope that will not be done for the sole purpose of creating more shopping space. Otherwise, it will become a vicious cycle. Chairman, I've repeated this many times. We have 3 purposes. Now, we want underground space. There will be commercial developments. And above ground, this will give us an opportunity. And some facilities are not suitable to be put above ground. We can put them underground, and then the above ground space can be used better. So we will be looking at these 3 things. Ms. Ann Chang. Well, Mr. Michael Tan said that he had 1,000 questions. I don't have many. I don't have that many, but I still have some. I would like to ask the director. Now, in the past, have we conducted any studies on underground space? This is my first question. Director? Well, recently, you may still remember this. We are carrying out a study on caverns. And some projects have been derived from it. For example, the Shatin wastewater treatment plants. And at Diamond Hill, there is a surface reservoir, and we are also planning to put it in a cavern. So these are the recent studies, and in the past there were some other studies. So this is not something new. As for the whole MTL system is underground. Sai Wan Ho and Tai Koo MTL stations are both deep underground. But this time around, we want to look at underground space in a more systematic manner. Chairman, I support that this pilot study be carried out. We want to know more. Now, in the past, have we conducted such studies in the urban areas? I want to have a better understanding. How come in the past we didn't develop underground space for shopping or car parking? If you have such study reports, please give us a copy. Just now the director told us about his experience in France. They have an underground city. I know in particular in Paris, they are very strict about building heights. In Paris, no tall buildings are allowed. Well, the safety of the because of this, the safety of the superstructure will not be affected. Now, when I look at your map, it seems that in these areas above ground there are some old buildings. If you create an underground city there, then above ground there may be this 4 or 5-story high buildings, and in the future they cannot be redeveloped because of the underground void. So will you be also looking at this? I have visited some underground shopping malls, and many of them are very close to transport hubs. Admiralty is definitely a transport hub, so this is a good site. When people change lines in the MTR, they may have a chance to visit the shopping mall. This is convenient. When people go to work or finish their jobs, they can visit the shopping malls. So would you also consider this point? Do I have no more time? Mr. Hon, please give a brief answer to Ms. Chiang. There are 2 questions. First, for the redevelopment of old buildings, well, this is a matter of titles. For our study, we will try our best not to affect the titles of the lots above. So for our next step of study, we will be looking at these details. And if titles are affected, of course, we will have to do things in accordance with the law. As to whether transport hubs can be connected to, well, in Hong Kong mainly it's about MTR. For these areas we have chosen, they are very close to MTR stations. This is exactly where we see the opportunities are. We have visited Paris, and for the Paris Hall, it is actually a hub where 5 subway lines meet. So that is why an underground shopping mall is built there. Ms. Scott? Well, in Hong Kong, we indeed have a shortage of land, so that's why the government is trying to find more land for housing. However, there is also a shortage of land for commercial activities, so I support the development of underground space, and I support this pilot study. Well, some people have said that developing underground space is not that bad. However, it's not green, because when it's underground, you have to use a lot of power. You need air conditioning, you need lighting, etc. So when it comes to green architecture, if you develop underground space, do you have new technologies, or would the pilot study be covering such areas? Director? We'd like to thank Ms. Scott for her support. At the next step of the study, we will be looking at this. In Hong Kong, I think the consumption of electricity is something we must bear in mind. In particular, we definitely need air conditioning in underground space. If we build facilities underground, the temperature can be kept at a constant more easily. So it's not like above ground. It's not affected by the sunshine as much. So this is something we will look into at the next step. Ms. Scott? So now you will not be looking at green architecture, but I hope that in your pilot study you will also take care of environmental protection, because I don't want this underground space to waste a lot of energy. In Hong Kong, we still do not have renewable energy. So if the underground space has to use a lot of electricity, it will not be green.
I hope you would cover this in your study. Yes, we'll look at the development in this area. Mr. Wong Kok Heng, Chairman as a member of Hong Kong Island. I would like to ask the government to seriously consider the views of district councils. The mainstream view is one in support of the proposal, but there are common problems like the Tsim Sha Tsui, Causeway Bay, and so on and so forth. Parking spaces are in short supply. If we have a big event in Victoria Harbour or Happy Valley, coaches cannot find sufficient parking spaces, and traffic is therefore chaotic. So first issue, you should identify parking spaces for coaches. Second, there's a shortage of general parking spaces in these tourist areas. 20 years ago, when I was a urban councillor, when the Central Library was built, we asked why no parking spaces could be provided beneath the Victoria Park. But that proposal was not adopted. The Central Library was built without any underground parking spaces. So now we have allowed the problem to get worse for 20 years. And at the Hong Kong CC, there is a need to expand the convention facilities. In this study on underground space, the government should consider providing convention and exhibition space, because the industry has complained about lack of space. Of course, we can have exhibitions near the airport, but it's more convenient in the urban area. And we don't have sufficient space for exhibition and convention events to attract visitors and traders. And also the district councils, I would like you to consult them in the development of underground facilities. Thank you for your suggestions. Of course, we expect to get many suggestions on what should be provided underground. We understand there is a lack of parking spaces, but of course the government is also encouraging people to use public transport. Now we have new opportunities to improve connectivity. But at the next step, we are going to consider whether we should provide more parking spaces. And also the convention and exhibition uses, these will all be considered, and we will revert to District Council for further consultation later. Mr. Albert Chan. Planning must be done with policy steer. And you have to set up the main objectives or overriding objectives. In the past, for underground space, the government's inclination would be for commercial uses. But of course, you can also provide some open space. I don't think this is the right guiding principle. The number one problem is housing. And the government has been saying it's difficult to get housing sites. But of course, we cannot build, it's not likely that we can build houses or buildings, residential buildings underground. But if you say housing is the number one priority, then underground space should be used to reprovision above ground facilities. Then you should consider housing as a first priority. In other countries, they use caverns for sewage plants or refuse transfer stations, or even for swimming pools. If some underground space or caverns can accommodate such facilities, for example, if the Victoria Park swimming pool can be relocated to the underground space, then the land release can be used for building residential flats. Well, I'm not saying that this should definitely be the plan. But it seems that at present you are talking about, you are just concentrating on the use of underground space only. And if you do this, you will be ignoring our needs in other development areas. We're not here to provide shopping facilities for mainland visitors. The space should be provided for Hong Kong people. Can you set this objective for the study? And that is if we can use the underground space to reprovision the above ground facilities, and then the above ground land can be used for residential purposes, then I would support it. Otherwise, we can do something else. We can provide shopping facilities near the boundary with the mainland. Land is scarce and valuable in Hong Kong. We should not allow the space to be taken up by the unnecessary facilities. I think we are all clear about this, that land is scarce in Hong Kong. And we will seize every opportunity to meet different demands by identifying space available. Mr. Albert Chan is right that housing needs is the top priority. From 2003 to 2013, our GDP increased by 43%, but there's only a 12% increase in office space, and commercial space 16%. For these private buildings and private offices, the vacancy rate is very low. In 2014, it was something like 7%. So we need to take care of housing needs, but there are also other uses that we need to address: commercial development, office use. The government is also duty-bound to address such needs. A second point is, as I've stressed again and again, that this study will cover a number of areas. We can use the underground space for commercial uses. That can be done. Other cities are doing it. In the densely built above ground environment, we can use the underground space to improve connectivity and enhance the urban environment. And if there are incompatible above ground facilities, either new facilities or existing facilities, they can be relocated to an underground space, and then the above ground land can be used for other purposes, including residential uses. Well, the Sha Tin sewage treatment plant will be moved into a cavern, and then the land can be released for residential uses. That's a successful example. I think we should have more offices. Many years ago, I proposed that the CGO should not be in Central, in MOT. It should be in East Kowloon. And then we would resolve the problem of shortage of office space. But the government was stubborn and did not accept the suggestion. I think you should always make the needs of Hong Kong people the top priority, and you should not sacrifice Hong Kong people's interests for the benefit of visitors and tourists. It's important that we have this as our core objective, policy objective. All members who would like to speak in the first round have spoken. I have a question myself. We have a territory-wide study on underground space. The report will be available towards the end of this year. And now you have this strategic study covering 4 areas. Mr. Horn has talked about the Paris experience. That's not possible to be repeated in these 4 areas because it's covered by MTR. And the role of Causeway Bay cannot be relocated to an underground space, I suppose. Is this a pilot study intended for creating commercial space, underground space? I want our record, PWSC record, would show clearly what it is. As Mr. Chen Chi-Chin has pointed out in paragraph 3, you want to consider commercial uses. And Mr. Albert Chan has talked about how underground space can be used to relieve or to replace above-ground facilities. I would like to clarify whether such matters will be taken up by the territory-wide study. Actually, you can see in enclosure 3, we explain why we selected the 4 areas for the pilot study. Because in these 4 areas, pedestrian traffic and vehicular traffic are busy, and they are densely built areas, and there are new development projects. For example, railway projects, West Kowloon cultural district projects, and so on and so forth. They are taking place. And we are also going to have the new extension lines, North Island Line, for example. And then we have the parks, Victoria Park, Kowloon Park, the race course. So we have more opportunities in these areas. Of course, in the course of the study, we have to look at the financial arrangements, the possible financial arrangements. Some may be able to be taken forward faster than others, and we have to assess the cost effectiveness, and then opportunities can be created to improve connectivity, and also for facilities that are not compatible can be relocated That's why we have selected these 4 areas for the pilot study. Well, it doesn't mean that in other parts of Hong Kong there are other potential projects that we can take forward. And we have this territory-wide study. We hope through the study we can identify 15 possible or potential areas. The study is, of course, ongoing. Director, although you may not want to provide a direct answer, I just want to clarify that in paragraph 4 of enclosure 3, it is said that the 2 studies would complement each other. How can this be the case? Please explain. But actually in paragraph 2, we talk about the fact that that we are going to review the current situations, identified opportunities. We'll explore the opportunities and constraints. So these matters are covered by the territory-wide study and will not be repeated by the pilot study. And the IP rights derived from the study belong to us. So we don't need to ask our consultant to repeat what has been done.
Okay, so I'll let my colleagues ask the second round of questions. Second round, those who have indicated that they wish to speak include Dr. Fernando Chang, Chen Yun Han, Dr. Chiang Lai Wan, Sin Chong Kai. Dr. Fernando Chang, please. Chairman, I think the question you asked is actually the core question. Now, we have been told by the government officials that there are no preconceived ideas as to how the underground space will be used. However, in the paper, it is indicated very clearly that it will be used for commercial and other appropriate purposes. Now, for these 4 areas, they are in urban areas and they are core areas. And coincidentally, all these 4 areas have a huge park in it. So if we are going to develop underground space, then how about the above-ground property titles? There will be a lot of complications. For example, the Shatin Central line caused this kind of problem, and at our town may the underground water disappeared. So if you do something underground, there will be a lot of influence. But if you are saying that you can develop underground space, then above ground housing space will be increased. I think that is just an illusion. I think the underground space will mainly be used for commercial purposes. You have already said that. On the 3rd of July 2013, you gave a reply to LegCo, and you already said very clearly that the underground space will be used for commercial purposes. For example, underground streets, shopping malls, etc. That is what I'm worried about. We are developing underground space because we want to create more shopping malls. So, will most of the space in Hong Kong be used as shopping malls? Well, we have been saying that we lack land in Hong Kong, but we lack land for housing. How many people are living in subdivided flats? And now you're developing underground space, and the construction and operating cost will be 4 times that of the cost above ground. So definitely you will not use the underground space for leisure purpose because you spend so much on it. So it will be used for making money. Now, we are not saying that commercial activities should be banned, but we want a balanced development. So under our parks, you are going to put a lot of commercial facilities. I don't see you put the same effort in building residential care homes for the elderly. And how about livelihood projects? You have been dilly-dallying about them. So if there's no preconceived idea, then can I ask you this question? Well, why don't you just revise the paper? For example, paragraph 5, you say that one potentially practicable approach is through the enhanced use of underground space for commercial and other suitable uses. But how about arts, culture, leisure, social service? And paragraph 9b, you are also saying that large-scale underground space development for commercial and other uses. And how about shopping? Would you include that? Members have repeatedly said that we mention commercial and other uses. So now you are focusing on commercial uses. As I said just now, in the past 10 years, our GDP increased by 40+%. However, for commercial space, the increase in size is not proportionate. So we have the responsibility to develop commercial space. Our members are concerned that will we be overly focused on commercial space. But I've repeated many times, we are not just looking at commercial users, there are also other users. And also there will be underground connections. Now let us look at enclosure 3, paragraph 6. Reasons for selecting the 4 strategic areas for the study. We are choosing places where there are a lot of above ground traffic. So if commercial activities can help finance the underground developments, that would be good. And also it will facilitate underground connections. And also for some inappropriate above ground facilities, they can be put underground and the above ground development can be optimized. Paragraph 15 of the paper said that public space can be created so that cultural, arts and recreational facilities can be built. Well, you have cited those arts and cultural facilities, but they are the views of the district councils. This is not the government's position. And in the paper, the government's position is that the underground space will be used for commercial and other purposes. So if this is your original intention, why don't you state it clearly in the paper? Director, you've heard Dr. Cheng's view. I'm sure members will continue to follow up on this. Ms. Chen Yunhan. Thank you, Chairman. I'm positive about this study. Yet I still have a lot of questions. Just now I asked 3 questions. You really have to listen to the views of the people. And now in the re-energizing East Kowloon project, you are starting to do something. I remember the lands officer at that time visited those places with me. If it's not for our efforts, we won't see the development in East Kowloon now. So I hope the director will look at more details. Don't just look at the targets on your mind. Residents have their visions as well, so you better listen to them. I have cooperated with some of your colleagues. They are doing very well. For example, Amy, she's a very good government official. Mr. Chen Cheng-Ching is also very good. I think my colleagues' criticisms are right. Now, if you want to build underground streets, I will support that because Hong Kong is small and we are very densely populated. So we need land and we need sites to be used for a number of purposes. Yes, there are a lot of guidelines and constraints. Chairman, our old airports, you know that we have 3 very important ventilation corridors. Why is the stadium lowered? Because we need ventilation. So air circulation is very important. So when you do the study, you have to think about all these. Now they are submitting this proposal to us bit by bit. This is not ideal. I would not query why you choose these 4 areas, but how about the new development areas? In East Kowloon, we have over 300 hectares. Now they have just built several blocks of PLH there. Of course, there will be Kai-Tak Hospital and Children's Hospital. And this whole site is being developed now, so why don't you include it in your study? My question is, now we are developing some areas. Why don't you include them into your study? I do not object to your selected 4 strategic urban areas. But how about the old airport? The government has a great power over it. So why don't you think more about that area? The Causeway Bay, Central, they are now very crowded. And we have been talking about smart city. And in 10 years' time, the smart city will be as congested as Causeway Bay. So what will happen? I won't adhere to conspiracy theory. However, I'm just wondering, why don't you include the new development areas? Well, the director may say that I'm only instructed to look into these 4 areas. But these are very congested areas. I don't object to your choice, but I think new development areas should also be included. We are talking about over 300 hectares of land at the old airport. Why haven't you thought about it? And members of the public have given you their opinions. Why don't you listen to them? Director? Chairman, as I said just now, we have now selected these 4 strategic urban areas, and there are reasons behind that. But it doesn't mean that other than these 4 areas, we will not be thinking about other areas. We are indeed doing that. We are looking at the whole territory. Well, for these 4 areas, because they are very congested, both in terms of pedestrians and vehicles. So that's why we've picked them. When we develop underground, it would involve the issue of titles. So we do not want to affect too many property titles. So for Causeway Bay and Happy Valley, there are 2 relatively big sites, of which the title belongs to the government. So that's why we are carrying out studies there. Of course, for the old airports, there is space, and we are thinking about underground streets as well. But is it as crowded as the 4 areas that we have chosen? It seems not so. I hope the director will think about this as well. There are 3 major residential areas near the old airport, Kwun Tong, Huang Tai Sin, and To Kwa Wan. If we will have a smart city there, then there will be a lot of commercial activities, and people will be attracted to that area. So can you be more forward-looking? Then there will be less controversy. I hope the director can talk to the secretary. There are areas that are being developed now. Why don't you include them in your study? I think the director has heard your view. Ms. An Chiang? I agree with Ms. Chen Yun Han. Some areas are still being developed, and we can foresee that in the future they can become very populated areas. So I think we should really include them in the study. And I would like to ask a question about Tsim Sha Tsui. Now you are doing a study about West Tsim Sha Tsui, and it's just next to the WKCD. And WKCD earlier on lost $25.4 billion. And there will be a 17-hectare basement, and the cost would be $27 billion. The government would have to foot the bill. Now, for the basements, they would be putting utilities there, but we are talking about 17 hectares. So it's like 2 million square feet.
可以考慮呢，係咪？咁然後呢就
Let's consider the underground space there. Here we're talking about $20 billion funded by the government. Why don't we ask them to give up some space in return? So, Permanent Secretary, please consider this. Please take it up with the CS for A. So that's the suggestion, number 1. Can I have an answer to that? And for the director, there are 2 sums in terms of cost. Consultancy fees, A for investigation works, and then B, site investigation works as well. The XRL project has been delayed because people blame the hard rocks impeding the progress. Who should be responsible for the delay? The consultancy firm or what? Why should we give you $70 million so that you can fund a consultancy study? The consultancy firm may just then carry on with the study and do the site investigation works. You should make sure that the consultant will bear the responsibility. I don't want to see a repeat of the XRL project delay. The $70 million, I think, mainly is about investigation. Actually, the underground space of WKCDA is already earmarked for the car parking purposes. If we can do better connectivity to Tsim Sha Tsui South from our selected areas, then we can link up with Tsim Sha Tsui Station or Austin Road Station. We do have some knowledge about the underground situation of these selected urban areas. We'd like to get some data on the underground strata of these urban areas. The rock layer may be lower in level, but not so for Kowloon Park. We want to do some site investigation works. There's preliminary works. There will be the detailed design stage, and more detailed ground investigation will be carried out. But those will be for the next stage. Ms. Zhang asked a question about paragraph 10A4 and 10B. Supervision of site investigation works and site investigation works. Are the two going to be carried out by the same contractor? It's not clear in the paper. For 10B, is the engineering works 8.3 million is for the works. It's a small project, but it's still a works project. But then there's the need for supervision. We hope that the consultancy firm will be responsible for supervision of the site investigation works, and that will be covered by 10A Roman 4. But when you award this, it's awarded to one or two companies. Usually we are going to seek a contractor service, not from the consultant. So 10B is the engineering work, and 10A4 is the job of the consultant. Now you have selected a number of areas for this underground space study, and as the chairman has pointed out, you have another territory-wide study. When we ask why certain matters are not covered in this pilot study, you said they will be covered by the territory-wide study. Let's say look at Southern Playground. There's an RCP next to it. If you resume the underground space of Southern Playground, and then the RCP can move to the underground space, and the above ground space can be beautified, then that will be very good. The unwelcome, unpopular RCP can be moved to underground. That would be most welcome. But if you have an underground shopping center below Victoria Park, and then we have traffic problems, then that's not good. So, Director, please consider possible problem. I think this is not a suggestion. I don't know whether Southern Playground is covered by this pilot study. So it's actually a request. I want it done. It would be best if the RCP next to Southern Playground can be relocated underground. I hope more projects can be done to improve the living environment. I think when we go to the FC, we would provide more information on the coverage. A Southern Playground is covered in the study. Actually, any facility which is incompatible with the above ground environment can be considered for relocation. In that case, please move the RCP next to Southern Playground to an underground space. Well, we need an RCP, but it's not welcome. It's a nuisance, considered a nuisance. So that we can have a space for people, an open space for people to relax. But how can we send refuse to an underground facility? Well, that will have to be further investigated. Mr. Albert Chan. I think the idea of putting commercial uses underground is a wrong idea. You're putting the cart before the horse. It's not about a misjudgment on the part of the permanent secretary. I won't say this is unethical. It may be an act of omission. It's about the confusing way of doing planning by CY Leung. It seems that there's no rule for identifying sites. It is just randomly picked sites. In the 80s, we had the population policy, the territory-wide planning, the district planning, and then implementation plans carried out by OZPs. So we look at development, economic development, land requirement, and then how much land should be used for different purposes. And they have a comprehensive process before doing things in specifics. And now they have this committee or commission on long-term development. And they would be given piecemeal advice saying that there are more mainland tourists now, and then we need more commercial and shopping facilities in the urban area. This is the damage done by the CY Leung administration and the local communists. So you are now coveting the space of the underground space of different parks, and you want to build 3 or 4 stories of shopping facilities underground. As I've said, this is not something we urgently need in terms of land and planning. Some DAB members have been working with rural committees and anti-villages to develop the shopping facilities near the boundary, and they expect to reap billions of dollars in profit. And when the plan is commenced, you expect the town planning board to allow that. But you want to look at core district areas, Happy Valley, Causeway Bay, Wan Chai. If you want to develop commercial facilities, you should use the established mechanism. You should not affect the overall environment by putting something piecemeal there. You may need to look at other needs. You may also need to relocate the government offices. You can move all of them to Lok Ma Chau. You can have an administrative city in Lok Ma Chau. That's what has happened to Malaysia and other countries. Well, years ago, I proposed that government offices should not be in Central or MOT, and you should have a new government complex elsewhere. You should not be influenced by nobody, by the people, ill-advised people. I pity you, Permanent Secretary. And now the technocrats are led by the nose by politicians. Of course, we are going to put on record Mr. Chan's comments. Would the government want to respond? Mr. Hon? I said at the very beginning that there are 3 objectives. I won't repeat them. It's nothing new to develop underground space. We have done this. We hope that this time we can do it more comprehensively. We visited Paris, and where there are a few stories underground for shopping facilities. In Montreal, there's an underground network. They started to build the subway system, their mass transit system underground to improve connectivity, and also the space is utilized for an underground shopping facility. So it's nothing new. This time, by doing it comprehensively, I think Hong Kong stands to benefit. Your name has been recorded. The Speaker is off my point of order. Mr. Albert Chan said that near the boundary in the NT there will be a shopping city. He said the rural people and also local residents will be involved. And he also referred to some rogue politicians going to make huge profits. Can I ask him to clarify? Many people are doing this for public interest. They want to relieve congestion. They are trying to solve problem faced by Hong Kong, and it's not fair to call these people rogue politicians. Well, I think every member speaks with his or her own reasoning. I was referring to those rogue politicians who would like to seek underground space development in Causeway Bay and so on and so forth. I was not calling those proposing a shopping facility near the boundary rogue politicians. I was just saying that these people would be making huge profits. I think he's talking about the John Does proposing this for Causeway Bay and Wan Chai.
So
now we have come to the third round of questions. Well, when John Doe takes action, I think we will do something. Well, the one that suggests development at boundary is Wong Ting Kwong, and I really commend him on this. Well, at the PAC, I have repeatedly reminded government officials, when you submit papers to us, you have to be precise. If there are gray areas, then when the Director of Audit looks at your budget, if discrepancies are found, then there will be a problem. Of course, that will do harm to the relationship between the legislature and the executive, and also there will be other consequences. So we have asked a lot of questions. Before you submit the paper to the FC, I think you should refer to our questions. And if clarifications are needed, please do that in the FC paper. So I am not pinpointing in any particular paragraph, but you can make your own judgment. Third round, 2 members would like to ask questions. Dr. Fernando Cheung and Ms. Ann Cheung, and also Ms. Claudia Mo. First round for Ms. Claudia Mo, 4 minutes. Yes, we are now already in the third round. You are the first round, so you are given a priority. But we want more land, and we want more space. And people would think that we need more land for housing, in particular public housing. Housing is the most serious problem in Hong Kong. Now, you are talking about developing urban underground space, and it will be used for commercial and other purposes. Well, it's not possible for you to construct buildings underground anyway. And this study will involve $70 million. I do have hesitation. Just now, Mr. Albert Chan has put forward a set of concepts. You cannot just brush aside saying that he is getting personal. I'm particularly worried about Kowloon Park. In Tsim Sha Tsui, 5 or 6 years ago, there were a number of shops that were operated by the ethnic minorities, and they have been making complaints. They say that now there are not that many pedestrians above ground. They are forced to go underground. So for the shops above ground. Now they do not have that many customers. So by deliberate planning, you pull all the pedestrians underground. You may have noticed Salisbury Road near Peninsula Hotel. If you want to go to the Space Museum, you have to go a long way, taking a lot of turns underground before you can reach the Space Museum. We staged a movement, and now eventually there is an at-grade harbor crossing. And you say that this can also be seen in other big cities such as Tokyo. However, Tsim Sha Tsui gets a lot of underground space now. Everything's put underground already. And now you are saying that you want to do it beneath Kowloon Park. I really hesitate. Can you explain to me what the development of the underground space beneath Kowloon Park will be like? Is it for commercial use? Of course, for commercial use, I also mean a parking space. The car park on Middle Road will be demolished. The demolition is being carried out now. You cannot park there. And we do not have the new harbor park, car park now. And you can say that you go to the harbor front, there are some private car parks there. However, we have no public car parks in Tsim Sha Tsui anymore. So will a car park be built beneath Kowloon Park? So you are talking about Kowloon Park, right? Yes. Mr. Horn? In the southern part of Tsim Sha Tsui, yes, underground there is already a lot of connections. That is true. And for the southern part of Tsim Sha Tsui, now it's not well connected to West Kowloon. So under Kowloon Park, we can make a better connection. This is an opportunity. And also, Kowloon Park is a very big open space, and beneath it there is space for development. As to developing for what, we haven't come down to the details yet. We will carry out a study first, and then we will decide as to what things should be put there. Of course, there are different aspirations. As Mr. Mo pointed out, maybe we can put a car park there. This is one of the aspirations. And I repeatedly said just now, when we do a project, we have to make sure that it's cost effective. Yes, if we build a car park there, yes, we can get some revenue. However, maybe there are some other developments which may help fund the future project. So we will have to look at the details first. The government doesn't want too many vehicles going there. Otherwise, the roads will be congested. I'm not saying that if there is no car park, then no cars will go there. But we hope that people can make more use of public transport. Chairman. So, again, you ask us to pocket it first. You don't know what the space will be used for. Well, we will do a study first. But there are some basic concepts. Oh, you should have some concepts as to what may be included in the future. For example, it will include a car park. You are telling me that you do not want to attract too many vehicles there. But a food truck is also a vehicle, but a food truck will be running on the road. Well, Director, you have heard Ms. Mo's views and other members' views. Now we are in the third round. Dr. Fernando Cheung. The government officials have been talking about the Paris experience. Now they have a huge underground space and is connected to a number of railways. So for our underground space, it is also possible for it to be connected to our MTL stations. But there are several problems. Now for our MTL capacity is almost saturated. At MOT station, during the evening peak hours, you will know, if you go there, you will know what I mean. So and from Tin Hau to Causeway Bay, from Tsim Sha Tsui to Admiralty, the MTL capacities are already saturated. If we build more underground shopping malls, well, it seems to me now that you are inclined to build such facilities underground, shopping malls, restaurants, etc. So by doing so, you would only increase the pressure on the MTL. The MTL cannot increase its capacity anymore. MTL says that the train frequency is now at the maximum level already. And also the MTL stations are subject to a number of restraints. So if you do this, would you add more pressure on the MTL? And how about management and coordination? When the underground city is built, would the MTLCL be managing it? If not, then how will you coordinate? How are you going to coordinate with the MTL? In the future, as to what kind of impacts will be brought about by what kind of developments, we still have to carry out studies. I understand Dr. Zhang's concern. Now for the existing island line, yes, there are a lot of passengers. This is a concern. But please do not forget that we are planning another MTL line in the northern part of Hong Kong Island. Well, of course, now we are just at the preliminary stage. But for this underground space, we are also at the preliminary stage. We are just doing a pilot study. We are not implementing anything right now. And also for future management, it's also too early to say anything about it because we don't know how we will develop the underground space. It can be run by the government, by the private sector, etc. So we do not know the details yet. Dr. Zhang? Yeah, it seems that we are still at a very initial stage. But as members, including the chairman, said just now, we cannot believe that the government has no stance when it comes to the development of underground space. We believe that the government wants to develop the space for commercial uses. And above this underground space, there are parks. It seems that the government doesn't want to admit that. However, we are very concerned. Many members have already mentioned that, but at this stage, the government doesn't want to respond to us. Well, in the course of scrutiny, we want to make things more transparent. We want to relay the public's concerns to you so that you can explain to the public, but you are trying to evade. Well, it seems that you will definitely get the money from the FC. And we can now already foresee the consequence, but you do not admit that. Well, we speak on behalf of the people. We want to communicate with the government. We want to minimize the negative impacts. Why can't you be more honest? Well, Chairman, this is my view. I believe they won't be honest, but I want to tell the public that we are discharging our duties, but our government has been shunning questions. Mr. Hon, do you want to respond? No, I have nothing to supplement because this is indeed very initial, and we will conduct a detailed financial arrangement study. I have repeated many times already. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, first round. Good morning, Chairman. Thank you. Government officials, you are not accountable officials. You are civil servants, right? What is a government? Well, no matter whether a government is elected or not, leadership and directions are very important. When you come to our council, you say that you don't know this, you don't know that. You are civil servants. I will believe you that you really do not know. So I want to ask the person behind you, but he's not here.
地下我都提倡嘅呢個大波。
If we don't have sufficient parking spaces in Taipo, then let's dig down. That's the policy objective, to address a shortage of parking spaces. You may say we cannot dig down. We may have things underground that we cannot excavate. You know, in Beijing, the metro system was built because Mao Zedong was concerned about Soviet nuclear weapons attacking Beijing. So they wanted to dig deep and also to stockpile food to prepare for war. So that's how the metro system came about, and that's also the objective. Why they have this objective? We must have an objective when we do things. Even for LegCo's duty visits, we must have an itinerary. We would have meetings. We would decide who would go, what we are going to see, and who we are going to meet. For example, in Berlin, we are going to visit Berlin. Well, it's not a tour. It's not a tour. It's a duty visit. Yes, Chairman, you're right. If we want to dig in so many areas, I would say that it's not right. You may want to link up with MTRC facilities after digging down. We can ask the MTRCL to develop the space. MTRCL is a private company, although we funded the system, but now things are getting out of control. Why are we saying so much, speaking so much on a Saturday morning? And well, in the future, we may be asked, why did you allow them to dig, to carry out study to the developed underground space? Well, it's difficult for members here to monitor the government. We have to prevent the government from doing evil. You may not have the answers, but I have to ask you, if you do not know the answers, do your superiors know the answers? Well, of course, you can say that I don't care, I'm just a civil servant. I understand that argument. But that's the reason why we should not give you the money. Well, you can proceed to your second round right away. We have the WKCDA and the Cyberport land. It said that land should be made available for new technology and high-tech ventures. Well, we asked, was it how the Silicon Valley was developed? No. All right, now you want to have an underground city built. We have to judge whether this should be allowed. And all members here should be accountable to the people of Hong Kong. All right, after this study, if you say we should go for underground space, and back then we said we shouldn't build the XRL, and now, in the blink of an eye, well, when we discussed XRL, I was in my second term, and now the XRL project has not yet completed, and there's been overspending. Maybe those who are watching us on TV think that we don't have compassionate considerations. Of course, I cannot really talk to you over technical matters. You attended universities before you became experts. We're looking at scarce land resources, and then we want to provide additional resources for property development, or to allow MTRC to own the future resources and properties. Please tell us if that's really true. Otherwise, we ask why you connect up with this particular place and not the other places. From my experience in Tai Po, in the town center, there we don't have sufficient parking spaces. I asked them to go for underground space. They said it couldn't be done. So why can we do it now for these areas? Please ask your questions. I don't want to put my questions to civil servants. It's a waste of time. We need to get the heads of the government departments, the accountability of political accountability appointees should be here to answer questions. If I ask a question now, a technical question, and that is why, since we are so much, why do we want to dig down in these areas where we have got so much underground? Well, Mr. Hon, actually in paragraph 5 as well as paragraph 6, we have justified the proposal. We don't have sufficient land, so we would not miss any opportunity to find more land. We want to use underground space in densely developed urban areas to provide good opportunities for creation of space, enhancement of connectivity, and improvement of the urban environment. Also, the underground space can be used to house, relocate existing above-ground facilities that are incompatible with the urban setting. In other words, we don't have sufficient land. We want to make use of available space, so that above-ground facilities which may be incompatible with the urban setting can be relocated. Understood? Then I would object to the proposal. Ms. Claudia Mo, in the 80s, I was still working in the media. It's in the middle of 1980s. There was a French construction company which is still around in Hong Kong. The company proposed to provide something under the Southern playground that would involve building a few stories, and that would include a skating rink. And other proposals. The proposals were submitted to the colonial government. It was a piece of major news. The colonial officials did not want to respond openly, but privately they said it would require a lot of manpower, it would be most time consuming, and a major reservation was that between MOT and Wan Chai, when it comes to above ground developments, there are a lot of people and a lot of offices. So it was said that we must consider what would happen above ground before we consider underground development. I would like to put this same question to the officials here. If you want to relieve pedestrian traffic above ground, so you're encouraging people to go underground instead of commuting above ground. What's the concept behind this? I don't quite understand the proposal in the 80s, so I have no comment about that. We have selected a number of areas for the study. In these areas, there is heavy pedestrian traffic and also vehicular traffic. If we can provide better connectivity, say between Tsim Sha Tsui South and West Kowloon, then we can use it to relieve heavy traffic above ground. If you have underground facilities attracting users and visitors, there will be more people using above ground facilities as well. We're going to see more people above ground. So what about the problems identified 30 years ago? I have no idea what was proposed 30 years ago. If we are going to see an increase of pedestrians because of underground facilities, we will look into this. This will be covered by the study. So, in other words, it will be looked into in due course. With this funding approved, and we can identify projects, and then there will be a transport impact assessment, and that assessment will cover not just vehicular traffic but also pedestrian traffic. Well, they are seeking funding for a study, but basically they don't know what the study is about. Just one more thing. Do you have some major ideas about what would happen underneath Southern Playground? There are many possibilities, such as I don't have any concrete ideas about what should happen beneath Southern Playground. That would have to come after the study is completed, and of course after the funding is approved. Mr. Leung Kok Hong, Mr. Hon, resources are scarce, land is also scarce, and the land you want to use is in busy districts, and you are going to see more higher mobile population there. That's very simple. Mr. Y, say if you have sewer there, and you say you don't know whether water will flow in the sewer. No, of course it's going to happen. If you have a sewer trunk there, then water will flow in the trunk. And if you have a reservoir downstream and you channel water into the reservoir, you cannot argue that the water may or may not flow down through the channel to the reservoir. Then you are actually cheating us if you say that. we are talking about areas with high land value. You create more space. Space is money in those areas. And because of the availability of MTR, a simple logic. If it's for commercial uses, that's what happened to West Kowloon CTA. Tens of billions of dollars will be spent on underground parking spaces. XRL is expensive because they are doing things underground, and the ventilation system costs us billions of dollars. So, Mr. White, I have a question for Mr. White, the Permanent Secretary. Has Paul Chan told you what he would like to get done, Mr. White, in a meeting? Permanent Secretary, can you respond to that question? Sorry, no offense meant for Mr. Horn. I think Mr. Horn has already said it very clearly. In paragraphs 5 and 6, we set out the purpose of the study and the possible uses of the space that will be created. Well, it's a fake document. Paragraph 5 and 6 and above, there's a heading, justification. There are only under you only say something with under 100 words. And Hong Kong has been using underground space for public and commercial facilities for many years, blah blah blah. If you say the underground space is for commercial uses, can I suggest that it should be used for residential uses? Is it not true that people should not live underground?
Well, it is not suitable for people to live underground. It is because the law stipulates that for housing there must be natural lights and ventilation. Now, if there is so much underground space in the future, then above ground, what would you do? So what were originally above ground, would they be demolished for housing? Because now, well, in the future you will have more space underground and people cannot live underground. So above ground, will you demolish the commercial facilities so that housing can be provided? Well, actually in paragraph 6 is stated that some above-ground facilities can be reprovisioned. Dr. Fernando Zhang, fourth round. For this pilot study and the territory-wide study, they are both on underground space. So logically, it's very difficult for me to understand. For the territory-wide study is still underway. I think it will be completed by the end of this year. And before that, the government was to get an extra sum of money for a pilot study. You are already conducting a territory-wide study. And you have not identified areas for underground space developments yet. But now you suddenly picked up 4 strategic urban areas for a pilot study. You saying that they are strategic and you have picked 4 areas, but you are already conducting a territory-wide study, and before that is completed, you have already selected 4 areas, and now you're telling us you do not have any preconceived ideas. I am very surprised. If you have no preconceived ideas and now you're already doing a territory-wide study, there's no conclusion yet, and there's no indication saying that these 4 areas are most appropriate, and you are telling me that you have no preconceived ideas. So why is that? I find it totally strange. Please do not repeat what is written in enclosure 3. I have read it already. but still my questions remain unanswered. Now, you told us about 12 possible areas for underground space development, and now you have picked 4. Why? Well, Dr. Zhang, I would like to point out to you that this question has been asked many times, and I would like to remind the government officials that they will be held responsible at this council. So I don't think they will come up with any new answers. So I would like to give them another opportunity. In enclosure 3, we have already explained why we have chosen these 4 areas. I think you have repeated this sentence for at least 4 times. Yes, I understand. I've already pointed that out. But he hasn't been able to answer my question, so that's why I asked again. But I want to point out to you that if you ask that question again, you will get the same answer. Well, members have the right to vote. Ms. Claudia Mo, 3rd round. Well, for the present budget, it is suggested that a future fund will be established. To be frank, I don't know what it will be used for. Last night, I went to a budget forum, and I asked some financial academics what they think the future fund is. They say that it is an excuse for the government not to do things right now because it's about future. Well, we are not trying to give a hard time to the government officials here. But we have asked you a lot of questions, and you just tell us that please refer to paragraphs 5 and 6 of the paper. I have read the paper. You are just telling us tomorrow will be better. You are saying that you have to do the study first. There are a lot of possibilities, and you have to consider a lot of things. So all these are not practical. Chairman, you reminded us that we were repeating our questions, but because they always give us the same answer. Go to paragraph 5 and 6, enclosure 3, etc. I do not need the officials to answer me. This is a Saturday morning. I hope that you won't think we are trying to waste your time. It's that we think that the government really has a huge problem when it comes to its policies. They don't know what this underground space will be used for. Will they have a skating rink there, or will it become a shopping mall? Or they are going to be connected to the MTR stations, and you do not know about the MTR capacity. You will have to look at the future traffic situation. Now you have so many new things underground, then the above ground areas will even be more congested. Mr. Hon, do you want to respond to Ms. Mo? Oh, this is just the first step. We have to take the first step first. Well, we will definitely come back to LegCo to tell member the findings of the study. So we hope that members can approve this funding first. Otherwise, we cannot even take the first step. Mr. Leung Kwok Hong, I'm the laziest among all members. I only read the paper now. Actually, it's pointed out in the policy address of 2013. So this is C.Y. Leung's new measure. He was elected in March 2012, and then he assumed his post in July that year. So according to your paper, you say that in the 2013 policy address, it highlighted that underground space was a viable source of long-term land supply, and there was a need to further explore the potential of developing underground spaces in the urban areas of Hong Kong. To take forward the initiative, the CEDD commenced a territory-wide study. So in 2013, you already had a study, and this is the result. So for this territory-wide study, after it's done, now you think that these 4 areas are the greatest. That's why you need to do something about these 4 areas. Well, let us look at the chronology. For this PWSC item, in the early half of last year, it was discussed at the relevant panel. However, because of backlog, we are only looking at it at PWSC now. So for the territory-wide study is being carried out at the same time. So the territory-wide study will be completed by December 2015, right? So I'm not wrong. We are not in 2016 now, right? We are only in February 2015. I am confused by you. No, you are not confused. You are very clear. So if I give you the money, Mr. Y, Permanent Secretary, and then if the territory-wide study finds that these 4 areas are not suitable sites, then what will happen? Are you saying that the CEDD is of such a low level that its report is not worthy of your consideration? Mr. Y, can you explain to us? The CEDD is conducting an independent study. Are you going to throw it into a rubbish bin? Do you have the power to do that? Okay, you are asking the Permanent Secretary a question. No, I'm not asking the director. I'm asking the PS. Mr. Horn has made it very clear. In 2013, the government started a territory-wide study, and it didn't cover these 4 strategic areas. We have used our internal resources to identify these 4 strategic urban areas. As for the territory-wide study, some of the information can be provided to this pilot study. I'm very confused. So you are saying that the CEDD has a study, and you are using the government's internal resources to do some other things. There is only one government. So which policy bureau is responsible for this study? Is your bureau or C.Y. Leung himself or C.Y. Leung's friends? You have to answer me. I am serious. The Development Bureau. So the Development Bureau is above the CEDD, and suddenly it wants to conduct this pilot study. What are the justifications? Where is the paper? Did Paul Chen give you the order? You were the head of the highways department then. Before the PS answers, when I look at our clock, it's already 11:57. I would like to consult members. Can I extend the meeting by 15 minutes? Does anyone object? I think it's meaningless to go on. Okay, you object, Ms. Claudia Mo. Then let us see a show of hands. Mr. Ray Chen, I object. Well, can we talk about it at the next meeting? Because I want to see the boundaries of the areas. That is about the red lines in the map. Okay, there are 2 views. They are saying that we cannot end the discussion today anyway, so let us carry on at the next meeting. Now, do you think that we should vote on the extension of 15 minutes? Or we can at most extend the meeting by 15 minutes. So no one supports that, so we will use the remaining 2 minutes. I'm asking the government officials to answer you, Mr. Leung. I'm still chairing the meeting. In paragraph 2 of the paper, it is said that the Director of Civil Engineering and Development, with the support of the Secretary for Development, supports this item. And for the 2013 study, the responsible bureau is Development Bureau. So the civil servants don't care what their superiors talk about. They just make their own decision. Now, why are you paid so much to be a senior government official? You should follow your superiors' instructions. You shouldn't contradict them. If they say that the sun rises in the west, you say yes. Mr. White knows this very well. When he was the director of highway, he was a civil servant. Now he's closer to the core of powers. Our next meeting is on the 21st of March, 8:30 a.m. And we cannot finish the discussion of this item anyway. So at our next, or before our next meeting, can you provide supplementary information to us? Okay, the meeting ends here. Thank you.